Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to crack open a fascinating stack of sources. We're talking financial reports, cultural analysis, industry research, all to understand how the animated film, K-pop Demon Hunters, or KDH, basically wrote the new blueprint for a global blockbuster.
It really did. And this isn't just about a popular film. It's a genuine cultural phenomenon that sort of redefined what success can even look like outside the traditional studio system.
Exactly.
The sources you sent over detail these historic metrics, the production style, and I think most importantly, the deep cultural authenticity that fueled its connection with the audience.
Right. We need to go beyond just saying, oh, the movie was popular. We're going to get into the hard metrics that show this unprecedented dominance.
Yeah.
We're going to try to decode what our sources call the authenticity code that turn viewers into, well, obsessive fans.
And the mythology, the Korean cultural roots are just woven so deeply into everything.
Absolutely. And then we'll place its triumph squarely within the context of the bigger Korean wave, or Hallyu.
This deep dive really shows that KDH didn't just win. It sort of changed the rules of the game for global entertainment. So let's start with the scale, because the numbers, they're still just breathtaking.
They really are. KDH has logged over 500 million all-time views.
500 million.
Which makes it Netflix's most watched title ever. That's a staggering achievement, I feel. I mean, it overtook giants like Squid Game Season 1.
Which held that crown for a long time. This wasn't a slow build, was it?
Not at all. It was an immediate, overwhelming kind of saturation event.
And what's so fascinating here is that the metrics, they weren't just about streaming. The success of the music it's arguably the biggest indicator of its cultural impact.
Oh, for sure.
The sources point out that the breakout track, Golden, held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for the longest time ever recorded for an animated act.
Which puts a fictional group, Huntrix, in the same league as, like, real-world global music stars.
Exactly. And that's where the story gets really interesting, because it wasn't just Golden. This soundtrack made history. It became the first film soundtrack on the Billboard Hot 100 to have 4 songs.
4 songs.
Simultaneously in the top 10. Golden, Your Idol, Soda Pop, and How It's Done.
I mean, to put that in perspective, that kind of dominance is rare, even for world-touring, living, breathing mega artists. It shows that the audience sees the music and the characters as legitimate musical acts.
Absolutely. And you see the hard financial reality of that. The reported $15 million bonus that Netflix paid to Sony Pictures.
Right.
That wasn't just a nice gesture, it was a contractual obligation, triggered because they just crushed their global viewership targets.
And that bonus brought Sony's total profit to a reported $40 million. It shows the industry is taking this seriously. Major studios paying out huge bonuses for animation.
Then the accolades followed.
Instantly. 5 Grammy Award nominations.
5. For a film soundtrack from a fictional group.
It makes you wonder, is this the moment the industry finally recognized animation and K-culture as a serious artistic force?
Or just a momentary novelty. But the sheer volume of awards, it really suggests the former, doesn't it?
I think so. And if we look at the theatrical rollout, that's another critical piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, because it didn't have one, not at first. It skipped a traditional debut because of production delays in its Netflix deal.
Exactly. So the sources point to this limited theatrical run the sing-along version, which came out after it was already huge on streaming, as proof of this massive grassroots demand. It debuted in 1,700 theaters and became Netflix's first film ever to top the U.S. weekend box office.
And that's undeniable proof. Though, a skeptic might argue that was just a brilliant marketing trick.
Sure.
But the data, the 500 million views, that demand built up outside the traditional system, the audience basically forced the theatrical release to happen.
Right. The success was so immense that Time magazine named K-pop Demon Hunters its 2025 breakthrough of the year. It showed that, a genuine viral fandom can dictate its own terms.
So that leads us to the big question. How did they activate that level of obsessive worldwide devotion? We have to talk about what the sources call the authenticity code.
Right. Those streaming numbers are undeniable. But money follows the audience. So what did the sources reveal about the engine driving that fandom?
Well, the core finding is that KDH succeeded because it was genuinely made by fans for fans.
It wasn't just corporate mimicry.
Not at all. It felt real. The sources confirmed that a lot of the art team were described as serious K-pop fans. They understood the nuances, the visual language, the lighting.
And they backed that up with real-world expertise. They brought in actual K-pop professionals like the songwriter EJE and producers from the Black label.
A huge K-pop label.
Exactly. So they weren't just guessing. They were creating the music with the same pedigree as actual chart-topping K-pop. And that dedication, it just resonates with an audience.
It absolutely does. And that feeds directly into what the research calls identity resonance. Our sources state that a massive 55% of consumers agree that their fandom is a place where they can really be themselves.
Wow.
KDH didn't just entertain, it validated. It made fans feel seen and appreciated instead of just being a marketing target.
And here's where the sources deliver a real punch to those old stereotypes. KDH completely shattered that outdated idea that K-pop fans are just rabid teenage girls.
Oh, completely. The demographic data from Media is so important here.
You have to say?
Only 10% of K-pop fans they surveyed are under 20.
Only 10%.
Right. A massive 78% of K-pop fans are actually over the age of 25. And the biggest single group, 25 to 34-year-olds.
Which means the people driving the streams and buying the merch are seasoned consumers, professionals with disposable income.
And the gender split is nearly even, 55% female, 45% male. The film reflected that diversity, so the community felt seen.
And that ties into what the sources call the K-pop appetizer effect, right?
Exactly. It mixed very specific cultural elements with a universal message of acceptance. So for newcomers, it was the perfect entry point.
You love the movie, the music, the story.
And then you're inspired to go check out more K-pop music. It gives you a taste of the culture without overwhelming you.
So it proves that you don't have to water down cultural specifics to get a global hit. In fact, that authenticity is what drives it.
And moving to the narrative, the power of that story is what really grounded the whole phenomenon. It blends pop music with some deep Korean mythology.
The premise is just so good. The K-pop girl group Huntrix, Rumi, Mira, and Zoe are secretly demon hunters.
Right, and they use their voices to maintain this magical barrier called the Hanmoon, the Spirit Gate.
And they're fighting their rivals, the boy band, the Saja Boys, who are secretly demons.
But the thematic depth is what sustains a fandom of 500 million. Co-director Maggie Kang said Rumi's whole arc being secretly half-demon, the shame she feels.
Yeah.
It was written to mirror the process of coming out or, dealing with any hidden part of yourself like trauma or being biracial.
That is a heavy lift for an animated musical. And the sources point out her shame literally silences her singing voice until she accepts herself. It makes her hybrid nature the source of her power.
It's a brilliant metaphor for self-acceptance, and that authenticity went deep into the mythology itself. The villains weren't just generic monsters.
No, they were drawn from traditional Korean folklore. You had the dokaibi, the shape-shifting goblins.
And the Muguishin, the water ghosts.
It just grounds the fantasy world in history. Even the main villain, Guima, embodies corruption through shame and regret, which is exactly what Rumi is fighting internally.
And the Saja boys, their whole look and name are just layered with folklore. Saja alludes to the Jeseong Saja.
The Korean Grim Reaper figure you see in K-dramas like Goblin.
Right, and they make that link visual when they perform Your Idol in the black hanbok and the traditional horsehair hats, the gat.
And the name Saja also means lion, which is the source of their fandom name, the Pride. The intentionality there is it's incredible.
They really pour detail into every frame. Huntrix's weapons are traditional Korean weapons, like the Sinjim sword and shinkle-throwing knives.
My favorite detail, though, has to be the pets. Jinu's tiger, Derpy, and the magpie, Susie.
Oh, absolutely. They're inspired by Minhwa, Korean folk art, specifically the Hojakdo genre, which has this satirical dynamic between a sort of derpy tiger and a mocking magpie.
It's such a specific cultural touchstone. It's like a little nod to the audience who gets it.
It's telling them, we see you, we respect this.
So we've got the numbers, we've got the authenticity.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of the Korean wave, Hallyu, this feels like a pivotal moment.
It really does. The director, Maggie Kang, who is Korean-Canadian, cited Bong Joon-ho's genre blending as a huge influence.
And the animation itself, by Sony Pictures Imageworks, drew inspiration from concert lighting and K-dramas.
And the choreography. They used top pros like Jonah In, but also the K-Tigers martial arts team, who wove Taekwondo into the Saja Boys dance fighting.
So this is what the sources mean by the new phase of Hallyu. It's content produced abroad by diaspora creators, and then successfully exported to the world.
It's a cultural love letter that didn't have to strip out the Korean elements to succeed.
And we see this appetite for Korean-rooted fantasy elsewhere, right? It's not just KDH.
No, the sources mention the Uncanny Counter. It's a South Korean TV series, also about demon hunters who operate out of a noodle shop. There's a proven massive global demand for these concepts.
A demand that had some startling real-world consequences.
You're talking about the ramen challenge.
Yeah, the fandom was so dedicated they were literally injuring themselves.
It's intense. The challenge was inspired by a scene where Huntrix eats ramen while singing, and fans were using extremely hot water to recreate it, leading to safety warnings from doctors.
That's genuine cultural saturation, and more harmlessly, you have the costumes.
Oh, the costumes were everywhere for Halloween 2025, sold out at major retailers.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think the ultimate takeaway from our deep dive is that K-pop Demon Hunters succeeded not by watering itself down, but by leaning in.
Exactly. It leaned into its specific cultural roots, the folklore, the music, the themes of shame and identity, and wrapped it in this incredibly high-quality musical package.
The global audience showed up because of that authenticity, not in spite of it.
And logging over 500 million views, it proves that niche definitely does not mean small anymore.
And this story is far from over. A sequel is planned for 2029. There's a short film called Debut, a K-pop Demon Hunter story that's been rated.
And major toy lines from Hasbro and Mattel are scheduled for 2026. This universe is just getting started.
So as we close this deep dive, here's something for you to think about. KDH, created largely by Korean diaspora talent, achieved these historic records by celebrating cultural hybridity and tackling painful issues like shame. This raises a big question for you. When you consume global entertainment, are we now prioritizing this kind of authentic, hybrid storytelling, even when it's emotionally complicated, over more traditional or purely domestic exports?
What does that shift mean for the next wave of global culture?
We'll let you chew on that. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.